And a very good Monday morning to you. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. You're looking forward to a good week ahead. So very glad that you can share some time with us for 3+U this morning, because if you are a parent or a grandparent with a child in Hamilton County Schools, no doubt you were watching very closely last Thursday as the reopening task force issued their plan for how the schools are going to reopen. And no doubt you and your friends have been talking a lot about how is it really going to work. So hopefully we're going to help you get some clarification and some answers this morning, because Keith Fogelman is the Chief Talent Officer for Hamilton County Schools, and he was one of the ones very instrumental in helping to formulate this plan. He joins us this morning. So nice to talk to you.
Good morning. Good to be here.
I bet your head hit the pillow on Thursday night and you kind of said, phew, because at least you were able to get the plan out to people. I'm sure it was a lot of work that went into it in the previous weeks.
Well, Colonel Brooks and Jennifer Bronson, who's been with us as a project manager, and I started in mid-May, and it's been a hectic, very hectic few weeks to get to July 2nd and being able to present it to the board and get the report out to the public.
So this is what everyone is talking about. Whether you have a child in public school or private school, everyone's wondering, what is it going to look like? So if you don't care, let's just kind of go through some things, and as you can answer, please do. Many people have read the report. Masks are going to be required, it looks like. That's for students and teachers. Can you elaborate on that, though? Who is going to be required to wear the masks?
So in both our phase 2 and phase 3, we're going to require masks, except for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and we're going to recommend strongly that that those students wear a mask. But we also, based on information from members of our task force, our medical advisors, as well as the American Academy of Pediatrics, there's a point with early learners, early childhood learners, the kindergarten through 2nd grade, that there may be diminishing returns. So we're going to provide a little flexibility. However, we will put them in cohorts, and when they're out of their classroom, they'll be required to wear a mask. Now, the mask will not be required when we are in outdoors or in large areas where we can social distance our students.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there, because it sounds like through that answer, you're getting to another question I was going to ask you. There has been some speculation that the kids elementary were going to have to be in one room all day. Sounds like they are going to be allowed to go to some of their extracurricular and arts classes?
So with the elementaries, they will have an opportunity to be out of their classroom. We'll also provide all grades an opportunity for a safe time, safe place for them to remove their mask. As far as the elementaries, related arts, we anticipate that some of the related arts will take place in the classrooms, but it's going to depend upon each school and each setup and just exactly what type of space we have available.
What about lunch, Mr. Fogelman? What are they going to do about lunch?
So we're looking at different plans there, staggered lunches if we're able to use the cafeteria, if we're able to stagger the students and have enough social distancing. We also recognize that the potential to have lunch in the classroom is going to be one of the options that we may have to move to.
Are you looking at those? I want to come back to some other questions about the masks in a second, but when you talk about things like we're looking at our options for, is that based on what the numbers are like? Is this going to be kind of a almost 11th hour call that first week of August, depending on what the numbers are like in Hamilton County, that will dictate how you execute the plan?
So we monitor those numbers daily, and we're monitoring them currently. We've got a gating criteria that we've established to be able to basically make sense of the numbers as we move from phase to phase. But it's just, and the way we're looking at it right now is active cases versus as a percent of population of Hamilton County. The way then we also factor in, what's going on in the county. What's the number of active cases that we're seeing? What's the hospitalizations look like? The number of patients that are in ICU, and then once school's up and running, we'll be looking at teacher absences, student absences, and making a decision based on which phase we're in.
Okay, absences. That's been something that a lot of parents have questioned because, as you well know, I'm sure, when the kids just get back every fall anyway, you have general illnesses that roll around, colds pick up, it's allergy season in the Tennessee Valley. A lot of folks are wondering, how are they going to send their kids to school in a mask with a drippy nose?
Well, the mask is what we're doing. Using that mask for is to really kind of protect, to avoid the spread of the virus, and so that's kind of the key issue, is being able to stop the spread. So our goal, our objective, is that once we start school, we want to try to stay in school.
Okay.
And
I don't mean to cut you off, but if I had a child in the 6th grade who had real bad allergies, and they're not sick, they just have really bad allergies, and I'm sending him or her to school with the mask on, but their nose is stuffy. How do you blow your nose in the course of the day? Would I be more encouraged to keep them home? And if that's the case, are absences going to be extended where you have more absences accepted than in previous years? Do you see where I'm kind of going with this?
Yes, I mean, so that's where we're going to have to take a common sense approach. A child that's got allergies and needs to remove the mask to blow his nose, we can make accommodations for those types of things. So, as an example, provide that safe space to let that child that's experiencing the allergies be able to take an opportunity to blow their nose and then return to class or get back into the swing of having their mask on.
Okay. In terms of making sure that they're wearing them properly, there's a video circulating. It's a parody that this woman has done of what kids are going to really look like wearing their masks and the different ways they'll find to use them besides the proper way. Is there going to be oversight in terms of making sure that they are wearing them properly? Otherwise, it's pretty ineffective, I guess.
Yes, so a couple of things. First of all, one of the things that we're going to do as we start school is to really do orientations for parents, for our staff, for our students. The first week of school will be a lot about really thinking about what the future could look like in the coming days of the school year. So one of the things we want to do is really provide some health and safety orientations for students, as I mentioned, as well as parents, to be sure they understand proper mask wear. And and one of the things we'll do is try to help the students ensure that they're wearing the mask, because the goal is prevent the spread, and to do that we need to be able to wear the mask.
And is the school system providing those masks? And if so, is it going to have enough for 2 a day, and that way they can change them? Is that the plan?
The plan is that we're going to be able to provide masks. We're still looking at how we're going to be able to acquire enough to be able to, have plenty enough masks for our students. But our plan is to be able to provide the mask.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's kind of get off the mask conversation for a minute. A lot of parents are not really sure what is the right thing to do. The county is offering options. So if you don't want your child to physically go to school, you can do either remote learning from your zone school or virtual school. Can you explain the difference in those two?
So I'll just say, to answer your question up front, is that in our surveys, we have had about 25% of our parents tell us that they're not planning to have their children return to school. So that was one of the emphasis of us providing our Hamilton County schools at home. And so the difference is Hamilton County School at home, the student will be connected with their home school. They'll have to sign up for a semester. But during that semester, they'll be at times actually participating in the class virtually in the classroom with some of their classmates, and of course at times they'll be working online assignments. The virtual school it's a school that we've had in place for quite some period of time, And if they elect to go to the virtual school, they'll actually transfer to that school.
Okay. Do you anticipate for the middle and high school kids especially, sports is a big thing, extracurricular activities is a big thing. There's been no announcement that I'm aware of yet to indicate that life is going to continue on smoothly with that. When do we know that we're going to get answers on football and soccer and band and that kind of thing?
So the governor's executive order that came out last week really limits any activity until after August 29th. So that has obviously stalled some of our sports programs. We also, once we're able to return, we'll be using the national high school guidelines to be able to help us move through the different phases. And we currently will have athletes and band returning to practice beginning, I think, this week, and then we'll be operating under those guidelines.
Okay, so that as far as the kids are concerned, they can't go to the football game and play or perform, but they can still have their practice and get ready for whenever the season does start.
That's correct.
Okay. How have you handled things with school buses, and are they trying to rearrange classrooms to keep the kids 6 feet apart as well as wearing the masks?
So, school buses, let me start there. One of the things that we're going to be, especially when we're in phase 3, it's going to be very difficult for us to social distance 100% of the time. We'll have roughly, given that we're going to have some percentage of our students either in virtual school or at HCS at home, we'll still have, say, 60 to 70% of our normal student population. So that's why masks are important. So in the buses, what we'll do is require students to ride the bus. They'll have to have a mask. We'll have assigned seating. We'll have loading patterns. We'll also have where students that have family members riding the bus with them, they'll be able to sit together. Our goal is to space the students out as much as possible. Now, when we move into the phase 2, our reduced hours on campus, it becomes a lot easier to social distance, not only on the bus, but also in the classroom, because we're going to have basically 50% of our students in school at a particular time.
And is there a magic number with that? I know you indicated it's a percentage, but to make it easy for folks to follow, is there a magic number that we have to get to of cases that put us into those alternating days?
Well, we're tracking active cases as one of our key metrics, and to move into phase 2, it would be somewhere between approximately 1,500 to 1,800 active cases. We kind of have a band there because we want to factor other things into it, such as what's the trends look like in Hamilton County on the number of cases daily, what's our hospitalizations look like, number of patients in ICU, and then once we're in school, teacher absences, student absences.
Okay, I have 2 questions. You've been very gracious to give me this much time. Question 1 is, if there should be some pockets in the county where there are cases increasing, but not widespread throughout the county, is it possible that you could just have those schools in that zone affected by closing or limiting their time? And then question 2, how often are you reassessing your plan?
So the first question around particular parts of the county, in both phase 3 and phase 2, what we expect to have happen is that, or what we're preparing for, is that we'll have a positive case in one of our schools in parts of the county. So in our plan, we're preparing that we will have a positive case in the school, and we'll need to shut down, go through a disinfecting period, and be sure we're ready to safely start school back. So we've built that into the plan. The other thing that we want to do is, we obviously, as we monitor cases, we try to understand exactly what's going on in the county so that we're prepared to react. And if you give me your second question again.
Oh, sure. I just was asking you how often you're reassessing. Is the task force still kind of talking multiple times a week to make sure it's still, the plan can still be enacted as is?
Yes. So the one thing we said about the plan, two things. It's a framework, and it gives us a framework for decision making, a framework for basically putting our implementation plans in place. The other thing we said about it, it is not set in stone. We recognize that we could have changes we may get additional scientific information that would cause us to think differently about things. So as we learn more, we're prepared to adjust the plan accordingly.
Well, you have been very, very gracious to give me this much time this morning. These were just a few questions. I'm sure that I could ask you many more that parents are right now yelling at the TV, wishing that they could get the answers to. But your recommendation is just to go to the Hamilton County Schools website, hcde.org, and there you can learn much more about how this framework is going to impact your child.
And we'll be holding town hall meetings over the course of the next month, so people have an opportunity to learn more information.
All right, Keith Fogelman, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We're back with more in just a minute.
The strongest competitors are back.